Morning.
Good morning,
Mike,
mate.
Tony.
Morning.
Thank you very much for joining us on the podcast this morning.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. Would you like to introduce yourselves and just explain who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
So I'm Mike. I'm from Manchester originally. Live up in Bridgewater now. Volunteer with Tony down at St Mary's Church in Bridgewater. Yeah.
I'm Tony. I'm originally from London. I made my way up to Somerset Way. Ended up in Broadway Lodge, Bridgewater, and then did some volunteering in St Mary's Church. Yeah, been a great journey.
How nervous are you two? I met these guys last week, so that we've been talking for a while, but I met these guys last week and it's quite funny really because you see the difference between what they're like here and what they were like on Friday when I went up to do a little...
I think it's a comfort zone, isn't it?
Yeah.
In St Mary's, we feel very comfortable. Yeah, that's where we kind of like, we spend most of our days there, don't we? So yeah, and then when you're kind of like plucked out of it, it's a bit different.
I'm just over 15 months in AA and I've not said a word.
You are kidding me.
I'm not kidding.
How have you got through?
I don't know. Yeah, 15 months and about 10 days now, and I've never opened my mouth.
Have you ever had recovery before? Wow. First and last?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
I was talking to somebody yesterday. It fascinates me the fact that people who like go to treatment or decide to get well. I know you've done it through the rooms, haven't you? And then they pick. I was talking to you about this last week as well, wasn't it? And then they go and pick up, and I think, oh my gosh, all that effort it's taken and all that energy, both emotionally and spiritually, and then you go and pick up another drink or you pick up a drug. And I understand that people have awful things that happen in their lives, but why blame that to give you an excuse to pick up again?
I think I'm pretty lucky because this is my first journey of recovery. So I've never really experienced any relapses or anything like that. And I come out of Broadway Lodge after spending a bit of time in there recovering. I spent the next month homeless, still walking the streets. They give me a dry house in Weston, but I never give it a chance because I was out of my comfort zone and I was left with some raw. So I dumped my stuff on the bed and I don't think I slept in that bed. I walked Weston for about 2 weeks.
Were you homeless before you went into the lodge? Yeah.
So
Sorry.
I walked Weston for about 2 weeks, just crying my eyes out, and then eventually found hope in a church, and that gave me the start of my journey. I went back to the dry house, packed my stuff, jumped on a train, moved to the next town, which was Highbridge. Found refuge in a porchway of a church in the cemetery, and I stayed there for 2 weeks.
In Highbridge?
In Highbridge, yeah.
Did you pick up at all in that space?
No.
So where were you homeless before you went into Broadway Lodge?
But I got as far as Frome. I've been.
So you've just lived on the streets for the majority of the time?
Yeah. So officially 40 years, well, over 40 years I've been homeless. I had, two, not serious relationships, but I had 2 relationships, probably a year just over, so it was their place. But officially, when I moved in my place, it was the first time I ever had an home.
This one now?
Yeah.
Wow.
First time I ever had a set of keys.
I mean, my family is very disjointed and not the best. And we moved and moved and moved and moved and moved and moved. And I think that's why I so love my home. I know I'm really fortunate, but I'd rather stay here than go on holiday anywhere because it's like my security blanket a little bit. So God knows what it must have been like not having a home. Because I remember wandering London once and I didn't even know where I lived at that time. We'd moved. I was living with my mother at the time. We'd moved that day and I would just remember walking the streets thinking, I don't know where I live. I actually do not know where to go. Didn't have mobile phones then. They didn't exist. And it was like, whoa, this is really frightening. And actually what I did was I was really fortunate. There was a cabbie driver who I got friendly with and who was a really respectful, never ever crossed any boundaries. And I went to the cab office and asked them to call him. And they called him and he came and picked me up. And basically he found out where I lived by working it all out. But, I was completely lost and dark and cold and everything else that went with it. But to have that kind of life for 40 years is not something I would appreciate.
Most of the time I was lost and I didn't know where I was.
Yeah. I can imagine.
That was down to the drink and drugs.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know who I was.
How old were you when you started drinking?
So 12 years old. So that's when my mum passed away.
Right.
And that's when the journey started. I was a mummy's boy. I was a real mummy's boy. So I remember my sister sitting down and telling me mum was really ill, but I don't think I knew what cancer was at the time.
Yeah.
So it didn't really affect me. And then we had mum home, and then she passed away. But I come from quite a big family. So my mum and dad's become like the centre point. My mum and my dad had like a lot of brothers and sisters, so I had loads of cousins. So it was a typical London family. You know, when mum passed away, all the family would come round and the girls would stay in the house, and you know, there was a pub 50 yards down the road.
Which part of London were you?
At that point, was at the Elephant and Castle. So I was born on the Aylesbury estate, and then we moved to the Elephant and Castle. And in that period, I think it was a 2-week period of my mum passing and the funeral. Of course, spent most of the time down the pub with my cousins. But I think back in them days, it was a bit of fun, weren't it, to see your younger brother get drunk and that. And because of the situation, and then when they'd go, I'd neck it. So I really do believe I become an alcoholic within 2 weeks, because I become a man within 2 weeks, a 12-year-old man. I don't remember grieving at my mum's funeral. I got nicked the night before, because I become like a bit of an handful. I got nicked and arrested the night before my mum's funeral. I don't think I grieved at my mum's funeral.
Been grieving ever since?
Yeah, well, I've never grieved. I think that was the scary thing about coming out of rehab, because I never cried. So to walk the streets and cry, I was like, wow, who am I? You know, what's going on here? And I was really frightened now. I actually got as far as a place called Islay, which is in Scotland. So, yeah. It took about 3-4 days. I went up there with a guy and some girl. We went up there for a bit to get away from things, but to do a little bit of work. And that's as far as that got me. We were out there. And I was out there, I think I was there for about a month. Beautiful place, really, really nice. And you had to get the ferry across, and the ferry was followed by dolphins.
You're making homelessness sound really attractive.
Trust me, it wasn't. Yeah, so when we got out there, I think it was maybe about a month, and then word got through that my dad had been rushed into hospital, and it was advisable to come back. So I come back into London, St Thomas's Hospital, and just picked up where I left off, really. Yeah. And that's sort of always been my life, survival, battling each day as it comes.
So have you lived homelessly?
Yeah, I did when I was in Manchester. Not for as long as 40 years, though. I only did like a couple of months, and that was long enough for me. But yeah, mine was... I always say it's circumstance, and nobody's that far away from it nowadays. I split up, and I was in a very toxic relationship. Drink was heavy and that. Drugs. And nobody wanted to put me up. I'd burnt every bridge that I had with my friends. They had children that they saw on the weekends, and they didn't want me around. And I don't blame them, do you know what I mean? And then I ended up in a tent on the church grounds. Got beat up a few times, urinated on, and it's horrible. And I try and wonder now, like, what goes through people's minds when you see somebody homeless and you do that to them, do you know what I mean? But I think if I tried figuring it out, my head would explode, because you can't get into somebody's head when they're like that. And then my mate found me, took me off the street for a couple of days, and then I moved to. If I move somewhere else, the drugs will all stop.
The geographical that everybody thinks is going to work.
And I've done it millions of times before. I moved to Ireland for a couple of years, and I spent most of them 2 years sat next to an alcoholic, funnily enough, and we just drank the days away. And he was a lovely fella as well. Like, he was a lovely, lovely man. And then moved to Bristol, moved to Bridgewater, and caused chaos again. The whirlwind just followed me every time, and I tried getting sober once, but that was for everybody else. Everyone else told me I was an alcoholic, and I think I did about 2 months. I done 2 months sober, and I didn't have no help. I didn't go to meetings, didn't do anything. When I look back, I didn't have my ducks in order, so I didn't tell anybody in Manchester that I'd stopped drinking. Didn't do anything like that. I think I just got up to 2 months, and I was going to Manchester to see the kids, and I'd planned it for about 2 weeks. I won't let the wife come with me, because if the wife comes with me, I can't drink. And I'd planned it to the finest detail. My train was booked from Bridgewater, I think it was about 11 o'clock, and I left my house at 9:30. The train station is a 10-minute walk straight in the pub, and I hit every pub on the way to the train station, in the shops with bottles of rum and beer for the train and the bus journey. And that then started a 2.5 year madness, you know what I mean? More than I'd ever done before, and this time, I was nearly dead this time.
It's that kind of dilemma, isn't it, between you think if you move somewhere you're going to be different. Actually, geographicals never work, and anybody that thinks they work, well, they don't. And then there's the other side of it, is how long is it that before you plan your next drink? Do you know what I'm saying? You've already planned. I always feel that people that pick up we were talking about relapse earlier, weren't we? But people have already decided at some point in their lives they're going to have a drink or use drugs again, and I think unless you have that kind of strong mind that says, no, this is not for me anymore, I don't want to go back there, I think you're setting yourself up for a drink every time. But it's being honest about it, really.
I was never honest. Like I said, I planned it for about 2 weeks. I planned that trip for 2 weeks, and I knew exactly what I was doing. Even to the extent, on the way back, literally, I went in the pubs in Manchester. It was about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, on the coach, on the train, and I had my last drink at Bridge train station, and I'd been drinking, probably 9 hours on that journey. And my head was telling me, my missus won't know that I've had a drink.
Wow.
And that was literally the last train station. I think it's about a 10-minute gap between the trains, and that was literally that was a 10 minutes I had a drink. And I was like, nah, she won't smell it on me. And she never admitted it. She never said anything to me, but she knew. But she knew then if she said something, I'd be up here, and that'd be it. I'd storm out the house, I'd disappear for a week. And
it'd be all her fault.
Yeah, of course it would. Yeah, never been my fault, would it?
No, couldn't possibly be your fault.
No.
But I mean, obviously I don't drink either, but I can tell when somebody's had a drink in the room now. I'm so sensitive to it. It's quite funny, really.
But we are quite clever, aren't we? Because the amount of times I used to have a drink like early in the morning, if I come across a neighbour or my sister was coming round or whatever, it just took one little bubble gum in my mouth and no one would smell me. And I now know, now in that relationship with my family, they smelt me a mile off.
Yeah.
But I was so clever at the time.
You think you're clever, don't you? But actually, you're not clever at all.
No.
But I think the sad thing is that you feel that you have to be clever, and you can't be honest, and you can't be direct about that. And there's so many people out there still struggling, which is really sad.
Yeah.
Really, really sad. So what led you to going to the church?
Well, for me, so when I come out of rehab in Weston, like I said, they give me a dry house. I just dump my stuff. And I walked to Weston for 2 weeks. And then I walked down to the front one day, and the weather was quite choppy. I walked down the front. I was really lonely and scared and vulnerable. And as I got down to the pier, I sort of turned and I just followed the wall along. But right up in the distance, there was like a church steeple. And I never looked at it once, but it was there. It was like every now and now. And I just walked along. And halfway along that walk, the wave hit the wall and I got soaked.
Oh, no.
And I carried on walking, and I found myself outside this church. And what I know now, it was never open on that day. I think it was a Thursday. It was never open, but they were setting up for like a kiddie concert. And I walked in, and the woman allowed me to stay there for 5 minutes, and I sort of sat there. And she gave me 5-10 minutes, and she came over, and we had a real long talk. And she explained to me what I needed to do in my journey, because I was full of hate. A lot of people turned me over. One relationship, she had an affair behind my back, so I always wanted revenge on them people. Do you know what I mean? I thought that'd make me feel better. And this person she simply put everything in simple terms that you need to start forgiving people. When I walked out of that church, she gave me some booklets and that, and I actually prayed for the people that I hated, and the weight that lifted off of me was unbelievable. And I felt lighter. I felt I had a purpose, and I felt my journey was just about to start. And that's when I went back to the dry house and packed my stuff, jumped on the train and bolted to the next city.
Bridgewater, Highbridge.
Highbridge.
Oh my gosh.
Why Highbridge then? Is it a particular reason?
It was the next town, and I just needed to get out of Weston. And to be honest with you, I really like Highbridge. I really do. And I found the church tucked right out of the way. I even started making myself Specsavers a appointments, give me a purpose to get up, and then the purpose of doing things, and then I had outreach coming out of me, and my journey really started. But it was all about finding that forgiveness in the world and praying for people, and then sort of realising that no one really done me any harm. Do you know what I mean? I was just holding on to anger, people still to blame for my journey. And I do it now when I go up there. I still pray for these people, for their happiness. You know, one of them's the mother of my kids that I really, really wanted revenge on. But I was trying to plan how to destroy her, but without hurting the kids. It's quite an impossible task to do, you know. And that was the thing what got me asleep at night, was hatred and anger and revenge. The church changed all that for me. It gave me belief, it gave me love, it gave me understanding. And it taught me to take responsibility, and I own up to it all now. I take full responsibility, and I own it. I own all the mess that I left behind. So all these people done was eventually sort of grew a backbone and stood up to me.
Yeah. And you don't like that, do you?
No, not at the time.
And then it gets converted into anger, doesn't it? And resentment and all of that.
Of course it does.
And it goes round and round, that circle goes round and round until you're brave enough to admit it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is there that bit where you've got to recognise your... Same for you. I mean, I know us three are in recovery and you're not, bless you. But until you take responsibility for your actions, you actually don't move on in the world, do you?
No, I think you're right. I think, it can be the same for lots of things. If you don't take responsibility, then, you're always going to think about that. And I'm very good at putting things off. I'll put things off as long as I can.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah, and until the very last minute. And of course, by that point, it's become this great big monster when it could have been something really simple. So, I completely get it.
But it is magic. I mean, this morning I was really grumpy. I couldn't set up a kit. Everything was really irritating me. And I'm not a grumpy person generally, but it's like, oh my gosh. And then it was all your fault. And then it was all Dave's fault because he went early this morning. And then it was William's fault for borrowing the cameras before. And then it was, do you know what I mean? It was everybody else. And then I gave myself a really hard talking to, put on an audio book and start going, come on, Ange, sort your bloody self out. Just laugh. But it's having the capacity to do that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You feel that something's not right and then still being able to go, right, okay, come on.
Rather than getting a domino effect going.
Yeah.
And it's one thing after another.
Yeah, but also I think it's the emotions that are like embarrassment, and then it goes to shame, doesn't it? And then from that it goes to, oh, I'm a bad person, and then it goes on and on and on, and I've let these people down, and then that whole cycle starts again. I was talking to somebody last night about how to regulate your emotions, and him and I go back a very, very long time, and he was saying that how teaching people, particularly those in recovery, how to regulate their emotions instead of immediately going for that first feeling, recognise the feeling, but then think about how you can regulate those feelings. And it's so true. And so many people don't have those skills to regulate their emotions. It's not something that they would do necessarily.
We never had to, though, have we? Through
Well, no, 'cause you just
we never had to, yeah. If there was a problem, we'd use on it. I've said this for a long time, like, if people... I think it was like 9 months ago when I started on that journey of recovery. And if people had said to me 9 months ago, right, I'm going to get you sober, but all the stuff that you used on is still going to be in your head, it wouldn't have sold it to me. It really wouldn't, because it's that natural reaction for me. If something's gone wrong, that's the only cure for me. That is the only way it will stop. You know what I mean? Whether it takes a couple of weeks for me to forget about it, whatever, that was the only way to do it. And now them raw emotions are always there, but you learn, don't you? And every day you learn how to deal with it. It's not just a magic wand, is it, where you walk in there and they go, right, this is what you got to do. You've got to put that in practice every day to make sure that you don't end up going backwards,
I think for me it was responsibility. Once I owned up and took responsibility for my own actions, then I could deal with my own emotions rather than keep dealing with everybody else's emotions. Really, it's just my emotions.
So you're at the church, St Mary's, isn't it, please?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Terrible with names, as you know. You've gone to St Mary's. What do you actually do on a day-to-day basis? Because I think it's really interesting for people locally to know what you guys do. Because when I went there, I thought, wow, this is really quite impressive.
It's beautiful.
And it's in Bridgewater, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but the atmosphere and it was just lovely.
It's a brilliant place, it really is. I come out of, well, when I eventually got into Damford House, which is ARC, Homeless Shelter, Supported Living, I think I moved in on a Wednesday, and I found the church on the Thursday, and on the Thursday do a little service in there. So I quickly had a little chat with Sue and Julie, who met the other day, and explained that I don't want the wine, I want the bread, and they told me what to do. And then when I come out, the vicar's always standing there to greet people, and she asked me to sort of wait to one side. Well, her daughter Jazz used to do a well-being on a Wednesday. Sue invited me along to support her and help her, which I did, and that was a massive stepping stone to my journey, that church. And then people, the understanding, the love, the trust, you know. And then the Wednesday went to a Monday, which was well-being. Now it's sort of a big mixture of people now. You get the homeless coming in, and it's such a lovely, relaxing atmosphere. I mean, we've got a few regulars in town. When I first moved into town, I used to sit there and watch them, and I was full of anger, but they seem to have found peace in that church. They come in, and a little bit of support, understanding. It's just, St Mary's Church for me is just a massive, massive part of my recovery. And Sue and Julie.
So how often do they meet? I mean, what's the kind of schedule that happens there? Because it's like, I know you do sometimes in there and then sometimes somewhere else you were pointing, but I didn't have a clue where you were pointing to when you were doing it.
So it started off on a Wednesday, and then they extended it to the Monday, and then we do a little bit on a Thursday, because the church is open for a church cafe. So over the other side, we set up for the homeless.
What's the other side?
Just the other side of the pews. So
Oh,
it's still in the church.
Right.
It's still in
Still
the
the
church.
church,
Just
yeah.
a
It's
different
just
section.
I'm thinking we're going across the road here.
Yeah.
No, it's still in the same church, just over the other side. And it's just grown and grown and grown. And if you don't mind me talking about Mickey there, we needed to get someone else on board as well to help us. I knew Mickey through the rooms. We didn't really have a lot to say to each other, really, did we? We come in, and I asked Mickey to come on board, and it's just been brilliant, absolutely brilliant, that church. And they're so supportive. And the beautiful thing about it is, like, whatever Sue and Julie do, it does from the heart, not just because they're a vicar. They actually really care about the community, which makes their life a little bit easier to do.
Are they both vicars?
Yeah.
She didn't have a collar on, the other lady, did she?
No. Yeah.
In disguise with her sweatshirt.
She might have had it on under the hoodie, I don't know.
She might have done. Yeah.
She was freezing cold that day, so yeah,
it was
she may
freezing
have...
cold, I can assure you.
Yeah.
Cold.
It was bloody cold. So they do coffees. Because you was telling me something about tents or something before we even started the training.
Yeah, so we managed to get a load of like sleeping pods in from another charity and that, and they're amazing, aren't they? So basically, the little tents for one person use, all insulated, all waterproof, and I think they're about 20-degree difference from outside to in. So they were live. They're not built for comfort at all. They're really not. Do you know what I mean? You need padding in there, but to save your life in this weather is unbelievable.
Cold,
yeah. So we get quite a few of them out now at the moment. We're getting a few of them out.
Do you give them away or do you...
Yeah.
So we got them donated, didn't we, from a charity. And then rather than just give them willy-nilly, what we've done was got people to donate, to buy one for a tenner, and then we handed them out, which allows us to fund the...
To buy some more?
Well, basically to go back into
the pot?
Into the pot to...
That's a good idea.
The food and all that we go through in there. So it's just a bit of fundraising, do you know what I mean? Instead of just giving them out, people donated a tenner, bought one, and then they was...
And gave it to
given out.
someone in need. That's a good idea.
It helps us.
So, because when you say it's not comfortable, it's got to be more comfortable than sitting in a shop floor with no shelter and...
Yeah, I mean, you can still feel the ground underneath
Yeah.
you. You need, like, your sleeping bag or whatever you're using to put underneath you, but... Yeah, they're an absolute lifesaver, they really are. I got in it when I was in the church, and it wasn't that cold in the church, to be fair with you, and I climbed in it. I was in there for about 5 minutes, and I got out, and the coldness of the church hit me, and that was it. And I was cold all day. I had to have my coat on during the meeting and everything, and everyone was looking at me going, what? I was like, get in there for 5 minutes, and you'll understand.
You warm up.
Beautiful, yeah.
And the people that we've handed them out to, they're so grateful they come back. and thank us.
But I know this sounds awful, but I know, and we briefly touched on this conversation as well last week, is that I know some people choose to live out in the streets.
Yeah, they
like
do.
you chose to. It's just so far away from most people's, if they can't even comprehend that people would choose to live out there, but also the fact that people don't have choices and have to live out there. And that's quite a tough one, really, isn't it?
I think when you're homeless and you're right in it, I think the rest of the world is just a bliss to you. You don't really know you're homeless. You know, you just go through day to day, addiction to addiction. It's not something well, for me anyway, because I was always alone. I chose to be alone. I chose to do my journey on my own and do what I had to do on my own. And half the time I didn't even know where I was, let alone homeless. So, yeah, there is a lot of people out there. Even when, as it sweats, kicks in, like the cold weather, and they put them into hotels, there's still a section of homeless that are not interested to go into that hotel, which personally I can understand to a certain degree, because you do find like a sense of comfort on the street. That is your survival mechanism, do you know what I mean? It's really hard to explain. So being taken out of there, going into an hotel and have to come back to that, quite an upheaval type process, do you know what I mean? To go through.
That must be really odd, though, isn't it? Oh, well, when it's a bit chilly, we'll come along and rescue you. And then when it gets a bit warmer, a few degrees, we're going to throw you back out in the street. I'm not sure that would sit well with my conscience.
Yeah, it's got to be 3 days consecutively as well. 3 days at a low temperature before they take you off the street. So I bumped into somebody on last Wednesday, and I was speaking to him. 60-odd-year-old guy, this as well, mind. And I think last Wednesday was -1, -2. But because the Thursday was going to be like 3-4 degrees.
He didn't do anything.
No, they wouldn't go out. And he said, I don't go in the hotel anyway because I'm acclimatised to it. He said, and then I'm re-acclimatising to something, and that's going to make me ill.
Yeah.
And there was a young kiddie with him, and he was like, he's 19 years old, this kid. He shouldn't be out here on the street. And I'm looking at his van, I was like, mate, you're 60-odd-year-old, you shouldn't be either. Nobody should be in this country out on the street in this weather.
But I think that's the bit about choices, though, isn't it? We do make choices, and I know that myself and Dave have offered housing to people that are homeless. We've got a flat, you can have it, you know. Don't worry about your housing benefit, we'll sort all of that out. We'll do everything for, no, I don't want to, I want to stay here, I'm more secure here. And I think that's the bit that that's rubbish. It is actually true, people do choose to stay where they are.
It is. When I went into Stamford House, especially when I got my little bungalow now, my little place I am now, coming off the street in Stamford House, it's really fearful. Yeah. Because it comes with responsibility. The streets don't.
No, of course.
Man, and it really frightened the life out of me. You know, it took me a long time to settle in, you know, the fear of responsibility. And then when I moved into this place, I really weren't going to start bidding, because the fact of getting my own place didn't excite me. It was the fear of the bills, the responsibility, the furnishing of it and all that. We're out in the street, you've got no responsibilities, you know what I mean? And that's what keeps you there half of the time. And that's what you'll find a lot of these people, they don't really want to go into places because it becomes with a lot of responsibility, where they've got an easy life, really, type of thing.
So when do you go back to work? When do both of you get a job and go back to work and get paid for what you do? I know what you do is really valuable, I'm not undermining that. But when does it come that you come a point where you go, right, and now I'm going to go and get a career of some kind?
When I've learnt the skills that I'm passionate about. So the idea that I do the church, even though I've got the experience, I've never had the experience in supporting people and understanding people and giving back. And that is a big passion of mine. Eventually, that's where I want to go. That's going to be my career.
Like support work and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, but I needed to get, because I can't read or write. I never had to on the street, so I can't pick up a book. I can't use a computer. I can't read.
Or won't?
I can't. There might be a difference, but I can't. I can't read and write, so I could never get into the paper side of it.
But you can, because you can learn to read and write.
Exactly.
I'll teach you. If you want to come over, I will teach you how to read and write. We'd be really happy to
I'll
do
take
that.
you up on that.
That's that thing, isn't it? If you want to go into support work, you've then got to go through because you can't just walk into a support working job. It doesn't work like that anymore.
No.
You've got to be qualified. You've got to have certain experiences. You've got to be able to, like where we are at the rehab, you've got to be able to use a computer. Yeah. If you can't use a computer, sadly, we can't employ you.
Yeah.
that's how we communicate as a business. But all of those things can be taught. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
56.
56. Oh, yeah, we can still teach you that. I do.
So hopefully, I want to go into outreach. So I'm doing a few qualifications at the moment
All right.
through other organisations and that, and just volunteering there. And hopefully, yeah, the aim is in the next, say, six months. That's my aim. But then, obviously, for me, I chose addiction over anything else. So I've got to learn now how to drive legally rather than just jumping in a car and driving around Manchester. So I've got to do it. I've got to do that legitimately.
Did you get done at all?
No.
Lucky.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I was very, very lucky. And then I started doing my lessons about 18 months ago, 12, 18 months ago. Yeah, there's a few times I could still taste the beer on me, and how the mid-driving instructor never smelt it on me, I would never know. And then I for my own safety, went, do you know what, I can't do this anymore. If I kill somebody, I'd never ever be able to live with myself. So I stopped that then. And then I thought, right, once I get a certain point sober, and I start looking for work and stuff like that, that's when I'll get that done.
So when's that certain point?
I don't know yet. Don't know. I need to be right in my head, and I need to know that for me, it's the right way to go.
Yeah.
So depending whether it be, outreach through one place or another, I've got to know that they kind of hold the same values that I do, if you understand me. Because different places, they work differently, and sometimes I don't agree with it. And I want to make a difference. I don't want to be there to be a yes man. I spent 40 years being a yes man for companies. I want to make a difference now, do you know what I mean? I've got to pray that they've got the same sort of wants as me, do you know what I mean?
And I think that's quite a difficult task, really, because every organisation has their own values and beliefs, and each individual has their own values and beliefs, and it's about marrying them and perhaps complementing them rather than just kind of have an expectation that they're going to think the same way as I am, because they're not.
No, I just mean there's certain aspects of certain places, for me, I don't think it works very well. So like, there's organisations that'll say to you, we can do controlled drinking and stuff like that. And for me, coming from that background, I know it ain't going to work. And I just feel to myself like it is there as a cash cow is probably the wrong word, but it's so you come back through that cycle again, and then they get more funding and more and so on and so forth. And I get people have a free right and a free will to choose whatever they want. So if they want to still be able to drink on a weekend, I just know from personal experience it ain't going to happen. You know what I mean? And that's where I struggle with places. I think if you spoke to them properly and said, look, this ain't going to work, and maybe you'd have a better success rate. You know what I mean? And that's the sort of things I struggle with, but there's places out there that don't do that. I don't know where my journey's taking me yet, but as long as I get the qualifications, I'm going in the right place.
So you're going to college, or are you doing
No, I do it through the organisation. I do it through a couple of different organisations and that. They pay for it. So at the minute, what I'd be earning at work and having to fork out for courses and stuff like that, it kind of balances itself out at the minute, yeah.
So does your wife support you?
She does, she does a lot, and I don't know why sometimes, because for 6 years I put her through hell, you know what I mean? And I've got a lot to thank her for, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be alive. I mean, and she has done a lot for me, and she supports me every way, because she sees a different person now. She sees the person that she actually wanted to marry. You know what I mean? So yeah, she's very, very supportive.
This is what recovery is all about, isn't it? Yeah. Is giving people that support. Yeah. Anybody that walks through that church is letting them know they can be supported. That support range, it gives you a little bit more of a different outlook in life.
When I came over on Friday, one of the things that actually I felt is the warmth. It was freezing cold, by the way. It was not warm in that church. I was blue by the time I got home. But it's a warmth of welcome, if you see what I'm saying. And it's not about, it was nothing to do with religion. It's nothing to do with your beliefs or my beliefs and whether they're the same or they're not, whether they marry together or not. But it was really, it felt incredibly kind, I suppose that's the word.
That's exactly what goes through that church. There's no judgment whatsoever. Yeah. And that's I think that's what the vicars of that church, I think that's their Their whole idea is it's a free house, it's an open door.
But saying we don't judge, we do judge, don't we? We all judge, whether we like it or not. You'll judge, oh, that's a nice that's good, that's not very, oh, she's a bit grumpy today or whatever. We all judge, but I suppose it's what you do with that judgment that's important.
Exactly.
So, you can assess somebody just by looking at them, but are you right?
Yeah.
What I felt was that actually you guys are interested in people. It's not just, oh, let's get him a cup of coffee and shut him up. Actually, we want to know what your story is. We want to know what we can do to help. We want to know if we're being helpful or not being helpful.
Yeah.
We talk to them quite a lot. We did, like, a lot of the things we want to make sure that they're safe, where they're staying is safe. You know what I mean? If it's on the streets, where are you staying? Yeah. We'll come round and see you. Do you know what I mean? And we have done it. We drive round a few times and we'll go and find them, make sure they're all right. You know. Managed to get the nurses to come in now once a week, so people know that they can have a checkup. They know that they can get seen if there's anything wrong, you know. And it's just the human beings at the end of the day. Yeah. Treat them like it, and that's a big thing for me as well. That stigma around everything. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And just they are human beings, and they don't deserve any less than any other human being. They deserve to be warm for a bit of fed, you know, and just chat to them.
We recognise their journey, don't we? We recognise their pain.
But that's because you've had your own experience. But I think also, I was in Bristol on Saturday and there was quite a lot of people around that were obviously homeless, and it can be quite intimidating when every corner, every shop floor, a shop entrance that isn't open, and they're tugging at you, and then you've got the person that's like gouching out on a park bench who is obviously homeless. You could see that just by their attire, and it's like you look at all of that and you think it is intimidating. So people can back off rather than thinking, bless, what can I do? And I will never give money to somebody that's homeless because I know what a lot of homeless people do with that money.
Oh yeah.
And so therefore, if I want to help a homeless person, I'd give them a cup of coffee or a sandwich and stuff like that. But it is that knowing what to do. You're quite powerless in those situations, aren't you? And it's like, what do you do?
Conversation. That's all I wanted. Someone to recognise me, acknowledge me, and a smile. A smile means more than anything in the world. And just being seen. I mean, I've done it. I've gone to the next cash point machine because there's someone sitting by the cash point machine. Yeah, so you're right. You can be intimidated by them. 9 times out of 10, we don't really do ourselves a lot of favour because the mess we leave behind and, you know, our attitude and all that. I've had people say to me, just get a job. Yeah. You know what I mean? And all that. So that's why we really, our passion, our aim is, in our community, it's just getting people to recognising that because you're homeless, you're still a human being, you've still got feelings. You know, I don't think there's anybody, I certainly didn't lay on the top of my bunk bed as a young boy and think, I know where I'm going to go.
Yeah. It wasn't your life plan, was it?
No.
And I think that's the thing. Very often people don't recognise that. You know, inside every single one of those adults is a little boy or a little girl who did not plan on ending up in the situation they're in. On Saturday, there was this chap that was obviously had been using, and the police were so kind. They went up to him and they said, look, you need to lie down. You need to go back to where you are because you're going to fall off this bench and hurt yourself. Please let us help you. That was exactly what they said. I could hear. I was listening to them. And I thought that was such a really beautiful moment. There was no aggression. There was no anger. There was no unkindness. There was just kindness. These guys were just trying to do the best by this bloke. They didn't want him to keel over and smash his head open and end up hurting himself. But I think, you know, a smile and a cup of tea doesn't go amiss for anybody, does it?
This is the wonderful thing about St Mary's Church because it's the art of our community. So we get a lot of the PCSOs coming. And when they first started coming, you can imagine the church emptied.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as they come in, because they come in for their tea and that. And then we get the street wardens coming. But the good thing about bringing all these people together, they build a trust. So the PCSOs come in now and people...
Get to know them.
People stay there. Yeah. People have a laugh and joke with them and start talking to them. So when they go back out on the street, the PCSOs, they've got respect for the church.
Yeah.
You know, because they start recognising that they're not just a police officer who wants to keep moving me on or keep searching me. They have got arts themselves, do you know what I mean? And I think it's a good learning curve for the PCSOs to come in and see a completely different side to that person who's sitting on the street completely bladdered and giving them abuse and giving people abuse because they come in completely different. So they build up like a really good relationship in that church. And the street wardens, there's two ladies, and they often at first come in and said to me, "Oh, Tone, they don't really trust us. Can you make sure they're all right?" They sit amongst us now. And the most beautiful thing is we laid on a Christmas dinner over the Christmas, and we ended up, I think it was over 100 people.
Wow.
Turned up, and that was the entire community.
Wow.
Is that on Christmas Day you did that, or did you do that on another day?
No, that was on another day. I can't remember what date it was. Was it the 17th?
Yeah, some 17th, 18th.
And we had over 100 people. And the most beautiful thing about that was, there was one or two questions of, what we're going to do with the rough sleepers. And the vicars were so strong that everyone sat together. And it was a beautiful scene because we had over 100 people in there, and there was quite a few wealthy people come through the church, and you had them sitting there with the homeless, you had the druggies, you had the drinkers, and it was amazing. It was just a mixture of people and total respect all day long.
Great.
And it really was. And then, I opened the church up. I had the church open from the 22nd right over to Christmas Eve, Christmas Day I opened it. We had an AA meeting Christmas Day Eve, but we opened the doors and the homeless come in. We brought food from home. They ate with us. They sat with us. They sat in the church while we had our little meeting. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. It's just a wonderful atmosphere.
But isn't that? I mean, it's lovely, but it's temporary. Do you know what I'm saying? It's almost like those kind of things should be all the time, if you see what I'm saying. As a community, we should all do our best to kind of give back.
The thing is sorry.
No,
The thing is in Bridgewater now, a lot of the things are closing. So you've got other churches and stuff like that now that they do referral only. So if you're homeless and you're picked up by the outreach team, they refer you over to the church. And then if you just walk down and you haven't been referred, you've got to pay for it.
Really?
So how do you do it then? That is the truth. Yeah, that is the truth. So then we're finding we're getting more people through our doors because obviously they can't be fed up there. So then when you started out, they'd say the cost was down there. It's now doubling and trebling because you're getting 2 or 3 times the amount of people through.
Yeah.
And if other places are shutting down because they're not getting the funding, nobody else is getting it either. Do you know what I mean? So it's a constant battle, but then you can't let places like St. Mary's die because then there'd be nothing. There'd be absolutely nothing in the town and there'd be no hope for these people. And that's the biggest thing when you walk through that door. Even if you're not ready for anything, you know that there's hope and support there when you are, and they know where to come for it. And if you keep shutting all these places down, that's it, you know what I mean? It's gone in it, you know what I mean?
I mean, we found that with the charity as well, because it's like you're constantly trying to raise money, you're constantly trying to apply for grants, you're constantly begging people for money just to keep it going, because the large proportion of the people that we see, we get loads of referrals from the mental health services, we get loads of referrals from social care, we get loads of, these are organisations that get paid. We don't get paid. And we then have to find the money, similarly to what you've just shared about the church. And it's like, I think it was last year, wasn't it? We were like, are we going to run out of money? And it was like, come on, let's just see what we can do. And then, money came in and we were fortunate. And we do manage our money incredibly well. But there is always that thing in the back of your mind, what would happen if we weren't there? I mean, we've got 100 people on our books.
Yeah.
What do you say to those 100 people? I'm very sorry, but we can't see you anymore.
We have gone to the next step in the church. Apart from Friday, the doors are open 7 days a week, that church, so anybody can walk in there any time. Friday, I think, is the only day that it's open just as a church. Nothing going on in there.
Oh, really?
We have an AA meeting there on a Saturday in now. Once that finishes, we keep the church open. Like you say, what we don't want to do is something temporary and then you close the doors and it's like So we keep it going. That was the idea of the sleeping pods, to raise money, to fund this. Yeah. Each day comes with a cost of food. Doing a sponsored sleep out
I'm not volunteering, okay.
In March. Doing a big
So how could people get involved in that?
Well, Mickey set up a page. I don't know if you want to explain.
So we had to cap it because my mind runs wild, and I was like, oh, we'll have like thousands of people. It'd be like Glastonbury. So when I proposed it to the vicar, she was like, look, we cap it for this one to 10 people. Then once it starts, maybe next year, we can up it and get it a bigger event, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, we've capped it for this year for 10 at the moment. And then, yeah, we've got a Just Giving page set up. I think that's available on the church site, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all live now.
Yeah, it just goes straight then into the church and that. Again, yeah. It just goes back to that thing, like
we've all got a pod each, haven't we?
Yeah.
Pod.
So we've paid the £10 line to get the pod, so that goes back into the church as well. If we finish, we donate that as well, you know. And it just bring in.
I'm not volunteering. Are you volunteering?
No, I'm
the biggest challenge we've got.
Dave would. I bet you would.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge we've got is finding somewhere to sleep out, because you've got that stigma about the homeless. Some of the people that we've
I've got
approached,
6.5 acres if you want them.
This might be perfect, because a lot of the companies that we approach, and the rugby club and the football club, they won't entertain it.
Really?
Yeah, because what they think it's going to attract
people.
Well, we leave and another 100 tents turn
Honestly,
up.
if you want to use our land, you're more than welcome. It just means you've got to get everybody here.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't be a problem.
No,
what day is it on?
Saturday the 14th of March.
Okay.
The vicar's biggest issue is got to have a toilet. So we've got the vicar stand out with us as well.
I'll have to talk to Mandy about that.
That was my fault, because, again, I was a bin man for 6 years, and a lot of my time I spent around here, and there's a lot of wasteland that you can just dip into and nobody will ever see you, and you're off on your jolly way. I didn't think we have got a couple of women doing the sleep out, and I didn't think...
But do you know what? I'm sure somebody would have a portaloo. I am sure that somebody would donate a portaloo.
I did approach a gentleman, and he was quite a distance out, and he did apologise, and he said if he could do it, he would have done it. I approached another business. I think it's about 120 quid. I rounded it up to. You know, I can approach these people again, and you know.
I think once you've found the location and look, and I'm sure there'll be some.
We found a location.
You're more than welcome.
Oh, brilliant!
But I mean, you know, the other thing is that it's about sharing what you've got. You know, it's that lovely saying, you only keep what you have by giving it away, and it's true. It's quite a strong. I really feel very strongly about that. I mean, gosh, I was homeless when I left treatment. I was homeless.
Yeah, and this is what the sleep out's about: awareness for homeless.
Well,
and the stigma around it.
I went back and had to live with my mother and stepfather, and it wasn't a happy moment for me to do that. But I also had 2 children to think about as well, so that's why I did that. But that was awful, to have to come out of treatment and then go back to the place where I was doing all my using and my drinking. It was not nice. But I did that. You do what you do, don't you? It's a bit like when you're homeless, you're homeless. Do you know what I mean? You do what you've got to do to it. But and I watched a documentary on a chap who was homeless. He had a tent in London. He worked at one of the top finance companies. Wow. And what he would do was he would go to the gym at the office at night, do his gym, wash, go back to his tent, leave his clothes in his locker at work, go back to his tent, sleep in this tent. I would not want to do it where he was doing it. Then next day, go to work, go to the gym, shower, put his suit on, and that was how he lived. I mean, he was earning a lot of money, just couldn't afford to live in any of there. Couldn't afford a flat.
I was just about to say that. I think, like, you see a lot of it now, like the van life, don't you, on TikTok and stuff like that. Now it makes me, because a lot of them are young people, and it makes me wonder with the house price, especially like Bridgewater and that, because of, like the rents and that are through the roof, aren't they? And I've always wondered that for the last couple of years. Are people doing that now sheerly because it's a cheaper way to live? And
it's also demand. You know, there's so few properties available compared to the number of people that want them.
That's true.
I mean, we both rent properties out, don't we? And one of the things, most people are coming out of it because it's not worth doing it. No. It's too much hassle. There's no value in it because the tax has gone. Expectations
making it harder and harder.
Yeah.
So
you know, so people think, do you know what? It is crazy, absolutely crazy.
I remember when I first got my house, I was 20. When I had my first house when my son was born, I think my rent was 43 quid a week.
Wow.
43 quid a week. That was in Rochdale, right? You know, £43 a week.
I was shocked at the price of council tax. I've never ever paid a bill in my life. I just had these £40 a month. It really shocked me. When you add it all up together, it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It is a lot of
Fine.
money. And you do. And I mean, you know, yeah, I live in a beautiful house and I'm very fortunate. But fundamentally, I have to be able to afford to stay in the house. I still have the council tax. I still have all the other bills that go with it. It's not cheap living. Okay, so how's the future for you guys? You're going to go and do some more training and get qualified and then do a job.
Fingers crossed.
You're going to learn to read and write. Get the basics in.
Sounds good.
Sounds fun.
Well, thanks very much for coming on, guys. It's been really
Absolutely
interesting.
Brilliant. Thank
It's
you.
been brilliant. Thank you so much. What an experience.
Do you feel as nervous as you did when you first started?
No,
I calmed down after about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I wish people would understand
Angie's
that.
very good at calming people down.
Yeah.
I just feel it's like you're just having a conversation, aren't you?
Yeah, I think because everyone was setting up the cameras and I knew everything was going to be pointed, I thought, oh no, this is a mess. Everything, you know what I mean? And as soon as we started talking, I forgot. To be fair,
That's good.
They're going to expect me to talk at AA now, aren't they?
yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I
And
think
you should be anyway.
what we'll do is we'll get you back in 12 months' time and perhaps see how you guys are getting on.
Yeah, that
I
would be
think
nice.
that'd be really
Yeah.
good.
Nice,
That'd be
that'd be
brilliant.
lovely, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank
Fab.
you so
Right,
much.
I'm going to stop
Thank
the
you.
recording there. Thanks very much, guys.